Hi everyone, welcome to Carpe Diem Sailing. My name is Marco, I'm a Sail Canada cruising instructor, and in today's video I'll be covering parts of the boat and some sailing terminology. In my 25 plus years of teaching, I have found that learning the language of sailing often represents a bigger challenge than actually learning to sail. Learning the terms and parts of the boat is fundamental to establishing a foundation and a logical place to start, so we will do that here. Some of the terms will be self-explanatory, like cabin or deck, but others, like topping lift or fairlead, will not and will require some explanation. To make sure nothing is left out, and to maximize your understanding of the terms, I will be covering them all methodically. So let's get past all this and onto the pure, unabated joy that sailing can be. For free downloads of the diagrams used in this video as well as notes and checklists, please visit our website at www.carpediemsailing.com. And now, let's get started. The left side of the boat is port, the right starboard. The front of the boat is the bow, and the back the stern. The widest part of the boat is called the beam. In front of the boat or moving forward is a head, while behind the boat or moving backwards is a stern. Right angles to the boat is called a beam, and forward and aft are terms relative to being on the boat. Much of sailing is in reference to the wind. Upwind is called windward, while downwind is leeward. Coming about, or tacking, means to turn the boat with the bow passing through the eye of the wind while under sail. Jibing is to turn the boat with the stern passing through the eye of the wind while under sail. Since a sailboat cannot sail straight into the wind, we have to sail at an angle to it while coming about or tacking at intervals in order to gain ground upwind. This is called a beat, or beating to weather. Whenever a boat is sailing upwind, the pressure in the sails forces the boat to go sideways. Sailboats carry centerboards or keels to create lateral resistance. All boats will drift sideways to varying degrees depending on many factors. This sideways drift while sailing upwind is referred to as leeway. We can, however, sail directly before the wind, and that is referred to as a run or running. The sails are generally set on opposite sides of the boat, and this is called sailing wing on wing. If not trying to reach an upwind destination by beating or running downwind, we can essentially sail across the wind at various angles. This is what we call reaching. Reaching is further divided into types of reaches based on the angle of the wind, but more on that in our video on the points of sail. And finally, a major safety point. We have no doubt all heard horror stories of the boom crashing across the boat. Indeed, people have been seriously injured, so it's important to understand how this happens. As the boat sails downwind, the only thing holding the mainsail forward is the wind pressure. Should the wind shift or the boat change direction so that the wind gets in behind the mainsail, it will come crashing over in what is called an accidental or flying jibe. When the wind shifts to the same side of the boat that the mainsail is on, we run the risk of an accidental jibe. This is referred to as sailing by the lee. Now that we've covered some terms, let's move on to the parts of the boat. The deck and cabin are self-explanatory. The cockpit is the main working center of a sailboat. The companionway is the main staircase down into the cabin. The main hatch covers the companionway, while the secondary midships and forward hatches provide ventilation and emergency exits. The helm is the steering station and can be a traditional tiller, or more popular on newer boats, a wheel. The traveller is connected to the main sheet, which incidentally is a line which controls the main sail. Fairleads, direct jib or genoa sheets, once again these are lines, to the cockpit. Clutches or jammers are line managing tools that usually lead to a winch. Cleats are used to make lines fast. They can be found on the mast or the boom as well as on deck. Looking at the boat in profile, we have the hull, which includes the keel. As mentioned, the keel provides lateral resistance, which allows the boat to sail upwind. On a keelboat, it also provides ballast, which helps keep the boat upright. The rudder steers the boat. The mast holds the sails up, while the boom works with the main sheet to control the shape and angle of the mainsail. The boom is connected to the mast through an articulating joint called the gooseneck. The standing rigging, which consists of the forestay, the backstay, and the shrouds, holds the mast up. The stays and shrouds are connected to the mast by tangs, and to the hull and deck by chain plates. The standing rigging is tensioned with turnbuckles. The running rigging is made up of all the working lines on the boat. The main sheet is the main line that controls the angle and shape of the mainsail. The boom vang, along with the traveller, help to fine-tune the shape of the sail. The topping lift holds the end of the boom up when the mainsail is not in use. The heavy loads on keelboats are managed by winches. The windlass is an electrical anchor winch found on larger boats. The pushpit is the safety railing at the stern of the boat, while the pulpit is at the bow. They are connected by lifelines, which are supported along their length by steel posts called stanchions. Spreaders redirect the load of the shrouds to the top of the mast. The transom is the very back of the boat, and traditionally rudders were hung here. The gudgeon is a tube which receives the pintle to create a hinge. Shackles, in their various configurations, connect lines to hardware and sails. Now that we've seen the parts on a diagram, I'd like to go through our teaching boat and just go over the parts once again, just to give you an idea of how they're laid out on an actual boat. So starting at the very back of the boat, at the stern, we have our boarding ladder. And then just forward of the boarding ladder, we have this hard railing here, which is called the pushbit. Forward of the pushbit, we have the backstay. The backstay is part of the standing rigging. The standing rigging is the rigging that supports the mast from falling side to side and fore and aft. Leading forward from the pushbit are these lifelines. The lifelines lead all the way forward to the pulpit, and on the way they're supported by stainless steel posts called stanchions. Another piece of deck hardware down here, which is very common on boats, is called a cleat. Cleats are used to make lines fast. In this case, dock lines. Moving into the middle of the cockpit, which is the main working area of a sailboat, we have the helm. In this case, the helm is a wheel. You can also have a more traditional tiller. We have a compass, we have engine controls, we have instruments. There's a line back here, which is called a furling line. That furling line leads forward and actually rolls and unrolls our genoa or head sail. A little bit more in the video coming up later on that. A lot of these loads are quite heavy, so we use winches for mechanical advantage. We're going to have another video coming up later on the different types of winches and how to safely use these winches. Moving forward into the companionway. The companionway is the main staircase down into the boat. We have the main hatch, which closes the top of the companionway, and then these little boards called washboards or drop boards will slide in here to seal this area off. In this area here, under this canopy called the Dodger, we have 2 more winches, and we have, in this case, 8 lines. These lines are all part of the running rigging. So the running rigging are the lines that actually control the sails. Since we only have the 2 winches and we have 8 different lines coming through here, we also have these things here called clutches. You can also have jammers, different types of rope line managing tools, so that when these lines are not on the winches, they can be held fast by these clutches. Forward of the Dodger, we have this, which is called the Traveller. the main sheet is connected to the traveler, and the main sheet is also connected to the boom, which is ultimately connected to the mainsail. And you'll see later on in our videos on how a boat sails that the main sheet and the traveler are used to shape the mainsail. That's all I'm going to say about that for now, but it's nice to know what exactly the traveler is. The traveler lines do run through the Dodger windows and back into the cockpit, so I can control everything from the cockpit, as I mentioned earlier. All of these lines are part of the running rigging. So these are halyards and reefing lines. The blue one is the main sheet. This one right here is the boom vang. These here are Genoa or jib sheets or head sail sheets. So any of the sails that we mount up forward are called head sails. The Genoa is the big one. Jibs tend to be smaller. We have handrails here, and this part is called a lifeline. The lifelines are held up by stanchions, and the lifelines connect the pulpit and the pushpit. Now more of the standing rigging, these ones are called shrouds. The shrouds are connected to the boat at the bottom through chain plates. The top of the shroud, where it's connected to the mast, is called the tang. And the tangs traditionally were just plates through bolted on the mast, and I'll have a picture of that. We have the mast. The boom is connected to the mast through the gooseneck. The topping lift is a line that actually goes from the top of the mast to the aft end of the boom to hold the boom up when the mainsail is actually lowered. Holding our mainsail in place are our sail ties, and you'll notice that the sail is nice and neatly flaked on the boom, which is how a sail should be stowed. Moving forward to the foredeck, we have our forward hatch. And we have our pulpit. We have the anchor locker with our anchor rode. We have another dock or deck cleat with our bow breast line and our spring line. We have an anchor up forward. We have a furling system. So the furling system is a way of stowing a head sail on the boat without having to put it up and down. If you had to put it up and down, you would actually be clipping the sail on to the forestay. The forestay is the standing rigging that holds the mast up from the front of the boat. And you have these clips called hanks. And the hanks would actually clip the sail on to the forestay. In this case, with our furling line, we simply roll and unroll the sail without having to lower and raise it every time we want to use it. And that brings us to the end of this video. If you enjoyed the content, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. If you have subscribed and would like to be notified of new releases, make sure to click the little bell icon next to the subscribe button. And why not check out our website for more comprehensive online courses? Thanks for watching. Until next time, I wish you all fair winds and following seas.